Great, amazing morning to you. Rise and shine up and at 'em. We're back. We're back. Just had to change a little bit of the format today. You know, I wanted to talk about something a little different. So everyone is so accommodating to me because this is like news flash, breaking news, Flint water crisis. Everyone stop the presses. Callers, I see you. I'm about to get to you. Just stop the presses. Just stop the presses. I am appalled. I am appalled. We should all be appalled. This is utterly ridiculous. And I have to, please, everyone who's in Flint, I'm asking you all, please forgive me. Please, Dr. Bell, everyone who tunes in to this wonderful TV station, WHPS TV 33, or however you watch us on Comcast 90, or live stream, or Roku, or however you reach us, please, please, my apologies. My sincerest apologies. I was so busy in my life that I literally forgot about Flint. And I'm going to be honest. I forgot about Flint because I, of course, take for granted that when I turn on my water is running, my water in my mind has no contaminants in it and the like, and I'm just moseying along about my way. But you know what? It hit me. It hit me. PBS and Frontline did a segment this week about the Flint crisis, and I cried. And I realized, you know what? Pump the brakes. It's all of us. All of us are Flint. Until we make it right in Flint, it will not be right anywhere else. And the truth of the matter is, secretly, there are 11 other cities that are dealing with that same crisis. We're going to go through that on today. So much so Detroit, and what is the likelihood that I got a notice in my mailbox for Highland Park yesterday, same thing, talking about the water. Bless my neighbor, they were having some remediation on their house about the lead in the paint because they have young children. I said, well, my other neighbor said, well, the paint is one thing, what about the water? Absolutely, do you all know that we are all living in that? No matter where you are, if you're dealing with outdated systems, poor quality, I believe, inadequate leadership, or leadership that only looks at the bottom line, which is what? Revenue, then we're all surplus labor. And the truth of the matter is, I believe it's the new genocide. Just in Baltimore the other day, they had a whole surge of water main break downtown. They talked about gasoline leaks and the like, but it was sewage flowing down the streets of the downtown. And people were walking in it. What is happening? Leadership, you need to tell me what is going on. And so much so that I am appalled as it pertains to Flint is that everyone who they had moved through and had the individuals, well, the truth of the matter is they didn't have enough individuals to be able to hold them accountable, to put them on trial. Everyone, that whole administration, the emergency manager, the governor, I'll give some of the names of the two gentlemen that they had, and they were supposed to determine if they were going to bind them over for a trial, and then all of a sudden the new administration changed and the Democratic governor got in, and now it's kind of lost in the sauce, right? They don't know how to pick it back up or what's going on. Are you kidding me? How can this be okay? How can these people who literally knew what was happening in this city and agreed to, and seriously, I can't do it. I'm totally appalled. And today, if you missed the clip, we're going to show you a few minutes of it. Let me open up again. Our title for today is Don't Forget About Flint. The truth of the matter is that we are all Flint. And let me give us our opening quote from Howard Zinn. He's an American historian, a playwright, and socialist thinker. He was a chair of history and social sciences department at Spelman College. And he's a political science professor at Boston University. And he stated, and I quote, "Historically, the most terrible thing, war, genocide, and slavery have resulted not from disobedience, but from obedience." Let me give that one more again. Historically, the most terrible thing, war, genocide, and slavery have resulted not from disobedience, but from obedience. I believe that this is a new form of genocide. I don't understand how we are in this billion, trillion dollar space called America and we can't get the water systems right. Specifically when we pay for water. There have been conversations that people say that the water should be free. Absolutely, it should be, but since we're paying for it and you still have Flint residents paying for it and you still have out of these 11 other cities that we're going to get into still paying for their water, HP still paying for their water, Detroit still paying for their water, but you have faucets in school systems because the pipes are outdated and the systems haven't been adjusted and things haven't been switched over, that the people are the casualties, the children are the casualties. And then of course you see what births of that, Legionella. And people have died in Flint from Legionnaire's disease. States cases that they identified as pneumonia but really was Legionella, and folks have died. So if indeed you didn't get a viewing, were able to watch the hour segment on PBS and Frontline, I'm going to give you a few minutes of it. Just indulge us today, if you will, please. Let's take a look. PBS Frontline, Flint water crisis.
Where people paid attention to a community that just used common sense and knew water shouldn't be brown and rusted.
State officials say their testing shows lead in the water.
With the crisis building, the governor ordered the city to stop using the Flint River and return to Detroit water. Within months, Snyder and his top officials would address the Legionnaire's outbreak. An aide to the governor called an environmental engineering professor at Wayne State University.
He said that the governor was about to go on stage to announce Legionnaire's disease outbreak, and he wanted to know whether or not I could determine if the change in water supply was the cause of Legionnaire's disease. And I basically told him that I thought I could pull together a team to look at this, but that I would have to make some calls. And he said, no, the governor's going on in like 15 minutes. I need an answer in 15 minutes.
Well, thank you for coming today. I'm going to share information that has been shared with the healthcare community in the past, but hasn't really been put out to the public. Over the course of 2014 and 2015, we saw a spike in Legionnaire's disease. I believe the numbers for the preceding years before 2014, we had 6 cases, 11 cases, 13 cases, and 8 cases. In 2014, we had 45 cases. And then in 2015, there were 42 cases.
I've been writing about Flint water for more than a year, and I never heard anything about Legionnaire's disease until the governor went on TV that day.
Thank you.
The Republican governor was joined by the state's top health officials, Nick Lyon, and the chief medical executive, Dr. Eden Wells.
Most of the time when it's going to manifest is as a pneumonia. This pneumonia would not, they say, we can't conclude that the water was the source of Legionnaire's disease in this outbreak.
MHS cannot conclude that this increase is related to water switch due to the lack of clinical isolates during the time period, and because not all the cases had exposure to the city of Flint water.
Well, let's ask the question, what would be necessary in order to make that link? They should have tested the water.
This is part of our efforts to be transparent and share information as quickly as possible as we can with the public.
At the press conference, no one mentioned that the CDC had urged a full investigation 8 months earlier.
This is certainly a bombshell, a game changer.
There was an outbreak of Legionnaire's disease that quite frankly none of us knew about. It's just shocking because we found out about a totally different disease and deaths.
Within weeks, Michigan's Republican Attorney General announced he was appointing a special counsel to lead a criminal investigation into the water crisis.
announcing today that Todd Flood, a tough former Wayne County prosecutor, will be joining me and working with me in an investigation to determine what Michigan laws, if any, may have been broken in the Flint water crisis.
People got sick. Terribly so. And the water was contaminated. And the public was in an outcry. I have never seen a case like this in the history of the United States before.
There needs to be an answer where people understand and can hold accountable those, if any, were at fault.
We didn't know if there was criminality or not. It's always about who knew what and when, and what did they do about it. You take your evidence and you follow that evidence down the path.
As the criminal investigation was getting underway, the scientific investigation into the Legionnaires' outbreak was also getting organized.
We started meeting with the state regularly, and when we first started meeting with them, they were very collegial, and it's pretty much, we will open the keys to anything if it can help understand this.
John McElmurray had pulled together a team of 23 scientists and experts from around the state.
We were all focused on making sure that we didn't have another outbreak, another season outbreak. And so there's a lot of pressure to get this done by the time summer started.
But as the months went by, the team says the state wouldn't authorize them to start the search for the source of the outbreak. Dr. Zervos was the infectious disease expert, and he was worried about the delay.
It was critical to start right away because by June we expected to see more cases of Legionnaire's disease and there would be more deaths, which is what we expressed in a meeting that included top leadership at MDHHS.
The scientists say they met with Nick Lyon to urge him to step up surveillance for Legionnaire's cases.
I remember my colleague telling him that if he didn't do that, people could die. Unfortunately, Nick Lyon's response was that, well, they have to die of something.
I was flabbergasted, and I didn't say anything right then, although it was a situation where you're just in shock as a result of him saying that, the director of the health department.
Nick Lyon declined to be interviewed. In a letter, his attorney said Director Lyon did not make that crass remark. He said the team's work was one of Lyon's top priorities and blamed any delays on the scientists. Special Prosecutor Todd Flood was also clashing with state officials as his investigation began turning up evidence of misconduct and negligence and an effort within the government to cover up the water crisis.
Every single witness had a paid-for attorney by the government. Whether or not you were a suspect or a defendant or a witness, every single one had a government paid-for attorney. So we were going up against Goliath. A lot of people didn't want us to expose what was happening and why it was happening.
Breaking news right now from Flint, Michigan. We've been following this all day long. The state's attorney general.
By the end of July 2016, Flood had charged 9 state and local officials with crimes related to the lead and Legionnaire's crises, including conspiracy, misconduct, neglect of duty, and tampering with evidence.
Today, 3 men faced the very first criminal charges in connection with the Flint water crisis.
We were starting very low, and we worked out plea deals with most of them to cooperate and move up the chain.
As the criminal investigation continued, behind the scenes, the team of scientists who were supposed to be investigating the outbreak was running up against resistance.
As we kept meeting with state officials, there was increasing pushback about the extent of data we would have access to, and more constraints being, in our view, put on the scientific investigation.
We're not allowed, for example, to talk to patients that had Legionnaire's disease. We were not allowed to go into the homes of patients that had Legionnaire's disease, which was really a very big, very serious limitation.
They clashed with Dr. Eden Wells over testing residents' water filters for evidence of bacteria.
This turned out to be a really contentious issue with the state. They didn't want me to collect those filters because they thought it might just cause more, it might scare people more than it would provide valuable information.
At one point, I felt personally that it might even be impossible to be able to objectively do the project.
They also felt it was critical to examine pneumonia deaths during the water crisis, in case any had been misdiagnosed.
So there's some cases of Legionnaire's disease that are not necessarily diagnosed as Legionnaire's disease, but just diagnosed as pneumonia.
Okay, so did you guys look into pneumonia deaths?
Ultimately, that was one thing that we weren't allowed access to. It was deemed as beyond the scope of what they wanted us to look into. But as time went on, I came to realize that maybe their interest in understanding things wasn't the same as my interest in understanding things, and that there were potential liabilities to the state and to the people I was talking with.
Dr. Wells declined to comment. Nick Lyon's attorney denied the health department had blocked the scientist's requests and told us Lyon was simply trying to ensure the state was funding necessary and appropriate research. With the scientists and state at odds, Frontline was doing the pneumonia research that McElmurray and his colleagues were seeking.
I kind of tasked myself to kind of just start looking through the electronic death record system at the clerk's office, because the only place to start, the only evidence you can find is pneumonia deaths. So I started looking in the time frame of the switch to the Flint River.
I recognize you in here before, right?
So everyone, I just wanted to give you a little bit of this hour segment, this hour special that PBS Frontline presented, and let me give you the subtitle. 5 years after the start of Flint's water crisis, Frontline exposes its hidden toll. Our 2-year investigation traces how the public health disaster that's become known for the lead poisoning of thousands of children also spawned one of the largest outbreaks of Legionnaire's disease in the United States history. And so if you all want to continue to watch that, you can Google PBS Frontline right on the PBS website. You will be able to watch that show from that clip in its entirety. And let me let you all know, and callers, I see you, I'm about to get to the line. If you didn't know about Legionella, Legionnaire's disease, I just want to put out there, what do you know about the disease? How is it contracted? Legionnaire's disease is a severe, often lethal form of pneumonia. It's caused by the bacterium Legionella pneumophila, found in both potable and non-potable water systems. Each year, an estimated 10,000 to 18,000 people are affected with the Legionella bacteria in the United States. It is not uncommon for patients with Legionnaire's disease to be admitted to the intensive care unit. Some will suffer long-term impaired health-related quality of life. The study of outbreak survivors showed persistence of fatigue, 75%, neurological symptoms, 66%, and neuromuscular symptoms, 63%, in months after an outbreak. So let me just tell you. And when you go on, when you're able to watch the show in its entirety, they talk about individuals who have compromised immune systems. So it was a young man from Flint. He had just finished his treatments for cancer, and his aunt said every day he would just let the water run over him. He would get in the shower and just inhale the moisture and inhale everything and let the waters run over on him. And weeks later, he was admitted to the hospital, of course, had pneumonia, and ended up passing away. Another young lady, her battle with the Legionnaires lasted a little longer. She had diabetes. She was 26 years old, of course, taken into the hospital, compromised system, then needed a kidney. Bless her, she was able to fight this until her 30th birthday, and then shortly after that, she passed away of a heart attack. The stress is on her body. And so I'm just saying, at the end of the day, if everyone knows that this is happening, and this is not something new, and how can we turn, because it's all of us. Like, I just got the paperwork for Highland Park trying to tell me about the testing and the lead impacts of our water system. We all know that the issues and crisis from Flint has led into the Detroit Public Schools water system. So that lets you know that that's the case. We had those challenges in our system before. So that's the same thing that's in our houses, the old piping. Hello? So at the end of the day, it's having an impact on us. So not only is the water that we're drinking or the water that we're using to cleanse ourselves with has levels of contamination, the air that we're breathing has all types of contaminants in it. Do you understand what's happening around you? I'm just asking. Like, and we have to be realistic about this. This is real. This is something that we have to be able to deal with. And at the end of the day, maybe you don't get it. Maybe you just say, oh, well, it's just us. And callers, I apologize. You can call back. Let me just let you know, it's not just us. There are 11 other cities right now that are dealing with issues of water, crisis, impacts of water. Let me give those to you because I don't want you to think that, oh, we're just this isolated space and that's not what it is and this is the challenges that we're having. That's not what it is. It's happening all across this United States of America and probably in places that don't even know how to recognize it yet to be able to put it on the books and say that it's a health issue or it's a hazard, it's a crisis. Let me give you the other 11 states, and I'm getting to it, so y'all have patience, because you know me, I have data. I'm going to make sure that I have the correct data. So I have about 30 pages of research. So they identify it as, this is through Business Insider, 11 cities with the worst tap water in the United States. Their intro bullet points are millions of people are exposed to unsafe drinking water every year in the United States. Industrial towns like Pittsburgh and Detroit have discovered unsafe levels of lead in their water, which has led to permanent brain damage in children. It also leads to what? Behavioral issues, inability to focus. And then you wonder why children are having problems in school. Okay. Other cities are reeling from the aftermath of chemical spills, which have released toxic substances into their main water supplies. Did you know that? Let me give you some of those cities. Well, Pittsburgh. Callers, I'm going to the lines. Let me give a couple. Pittsburgh, Milwaukee, of course, Flint, Newark, New Jersey, Washington, D.C., Brady, Texas, Baltimore, Dos Palos, California, Charleston, West Virginia, Newburgh, in upstate New York. We're not alone. We are Flint. Thanks for your patience. Great morning to you.
Good morning, Queen.
Good morning, King.
You know, excellent subject. And we don't talk about this enough.
No.
But it goes back to depopulation.
Yes.
It's been going on for years.
Yes.
But the problem is not them. The problem is us.
Ah.
You know, it's really us because it ain't like we haven't heard, but it falls on deaf ear when it comes in our ears or whatever. We really don't want to believe this is happening.
Yeah.
And like you say, they have surveyed. People have went out their way to do the research and give us the information, but we reject it because we really don't want to believe that they are trying to kill us. Yet long we was held, understand, as subhuman, as property for almost 400 years. Yeah. And then we still, it's difficult for us to believe someone is trying to kill us.
Yes.
You know, you talking about, like you say, through the air quality of air is different than in certain areas. It's totally different.
Yes.
They have proven that.
Yes.
It's documented.
Yes.
When you talk about vaccines,
Yes.
vaccines in the black community is totally different than what you would find in Jewish communities or whatever.
Yes.
The mercury base, they don't even use mercury base in those areas or whatever. But in our area, they use base, which is thousands of times worse than lead itself. And we continue to believe, understand that these people understand are going to change.
Yeah.
And because we intermingle with those who we may come in contact, they are ignorant of what's going on themselves.
Sure.
And so even when you think about even the food,
Yes.
they are taking the food that comes in these desert areas or whatever, black cities, black communities,
Sure.
and they're actually putting a chemical on the food that actually destroys the zinc that are in those properties, minerals or whatever. They're destroying the zinc. And it's actually feminizing our young men or whatever.
Yeah.
We don't want to believe that.
Well, stay there for a
We don't
minute,
want to
King.
believe that, Queen.
Stay there for a minute, King, and I want you all to listen because a couple points that he made, I want us to really look at the realities of it. And all the callers I see, so I'm going to get to everyone. Think about it. Just stay with the food. So, if our fish are swimming in contaminated areas, right? Or even if you say that they're being raised or, farm raised, but you are giving them the water that has the contaminants, so that's what they're using to grow off of, right? So then we're going to then eat that fish. Or the vegetables that are being watered and taken care of are being nourished with those contaminated waters, then we're going to what? Eat those vegetables. Like, do you understand the cycle? Like, so if there's contamination all around, and I'm going to push a little further from King's conversation, that it is a socio-economic component. It's not just our color of our skin, it's our economic class. So if they believe that we are poor folk, black, white, brown, yellow, tan, then we are all at the whim of big business. So, that's like the grocery store. What do they say? They put the dye in the meat to make it look fresh. I mean, do you understand what is happening? Because at the end of the day, they just want to produce. They give us products because they know, specifically from a store perspective, in inner cities and urban areas and even rural, they don't have the access to a lot of things. And so what you get is what it is. And so you buy it. You don't question it. And to your point, King, the truth of the matter is I don't even think we think through it. I don't think that we think that. I just don't even think we focus on that. We're so busy with trying to live day to day. I think the simple things that we take for granted, like we take for granted that, I'm supposed to have fresh water. I'm supposed to have clean air. Well, specifically those of us who are in Detroit, you should know better. If you look at, remember, deep southwest area, they've always had issues with the air. And everyone who still stays in that area, how many percentage of people have asthma? How many individuals have problems with breathing? And they still stay in that area. There are generations of people who've grown up in that area. They know about all the pollutants that are coming out from the factories and with incinerators or whatever it is that's down in that southwest area. And people still stay there. And I don't know why they wouldn't move. They don't even think about it. But so you understand what I'm saying? Like, it's such a bigger conversation to what you're saying. It's so deep that we don't know how to save ourselves.
Queen, think about the syphilis experiment that went on for almost 50, 60 years. Yeah. It went on, Queen. And then you think about it, understand, there's what they call the 85%, and they call them useless eaters. 85%, they call them useless eaters, the 85%.
Yes.
And that's white, black, brown, and yellow, and red included in that.
Yes.
And so it's a small group that is behind all of this, Queen.
Yes.
It's a small group. And they know that their time is up, and they know that the masses are waking up. The white, black, brown, and yellow, and red are beginning to wake up to the game that's been played. And so they are all out using all of their weapons, the food, the water, the air, the medicine. They have been weaponized, and they are using to the fullest on the masses of the people. But we don't want to believe it. Yeah. This is why our only hope is that God has favored us. Otherwise, we don't have a chance. If God wasn't supporting us and favoring us, we'd have been gone a long time ago, Queen.
And you said it. And let me just say this much, and callers, don't go there. I'm going to get you. And I want us to really be realistic about the information that we're given. I happened on yesterday for cannabis, we were having a conversation about cannabis in the workplace. And so now all the uproar about should you be tested and what it looks like. And I said the truth of the matter is everyone, if 90% of this population has some kind of diagnosed ailment that causes them to get some type of prescription drug, then we all have been altered. Because if you look at the side effects from any prescription drug, what is it? Dizziness, fatigue, irritability. You can identify, and all of those things can be hazards if you're in the workplace, specifically depending on what your task is. But we don't even look at that. No one, so the government has us so trained that, oh, because of the business of pharmaceuticals, that, oh yeah, no one looks about the prescription drugs. And guess what? And yeah, we're not testing for alcohol and tobacco, but now we want to test for the hard drugs and we want to test for cannabis. Stop it. You'll realize across the board it's of detriment. Guess what? If I have high blood pressure and then based on the side effect I could have a stroke, then what's the big deal that I have high blood pressure? If the medicine that I'm taking could give me a stroke. Just like get it? Or I guess they figure, so if you're already taking this medicine that could give you a stroke, and then I'm giving you contaminated water, which could then create all these other components in your body, which then is going to cause some developmental and damaging dynamics in your children, which then cause them to not be able to function in an already inadequate educational system, which then cause them to sit and what? Drop out of this educational system that doesn't tailor to them, or they get just passed through because of the legislation that and the policy, and then they do something to try to take care of themselves or break the law, and then they'll get into the prison pipeline, and then that's their life. How's that? How do you like the way that was all put together? You like all the and thens, and then based off of a system of people that have power and control over all the dynamics of our lives, and we're not conscious enough to be able to assess everything in the information that we're given. Do you realize that people on these airwaves, what they tell you is what they've been told to tell you?
That's right.
What they show you is what they've been told to show you.
That's right.
And then you're supposed to say, right, that's right, because so-and-so said it, because such and such said it, so it has to be true. We're dying. We are dying by any and everything. And the bigger reason of why we're dying is lack of information, the right information, and knowing how to take action. King, I appreciate you.
Let me say this to you, Queen.
Sure.
Now, with the air quality, I was in a certain area yesterday, and it affected my breathing.
Yes.
That is State Fair and State Fair and Woodward in that area. It affected my, and when I went out into the Birmingham area, it went away. But Queen, I had to take my CBD oil this morning because of the humidity in the air here in the city.
Yes.
I had to take CBD oil, and actually I feel 100% better than I was feeling this morning from breathing the air.
Yes.
I took CBD oil, and it went away. I was without it for a minute, and I had to go back and get CBD oil, and it works.
I'm just saying.
It works.
Everyone, and it's true.
Have a blessed day, Queen.
Oh, have a blessed day as well. Thank you so much. Everyone, I mean, that's the truth of what we're dealing with right now. Don't be removed in thinking that certain things don't just happen in certain areas. And we all used to joke about it. That's why you all said when it was a whole thing of white flight out of the inner cities because they knew that black folks were moving in and they felt that it was going to tear down the value, change the school system and all the like, so they move out to the suburbs. And then the first thing we were able to do when we came up with a few means, what do we say? Oh, it's better schools in the suburbs. It's a better quality of life in the suburbs because people of color weren't in the suburbs. Do you get it? But that was across the board. It's true. Let me go to the line. Thanks for your patience. Good morning to you.
Happy Monday.
Happy
Thursday.
Thursday.
Happy Thursday. But the blind loyalty is a social-psychological disorder that many of us practice. And so this is why we are being contaminated and inflicted in food and not schooled. Because we know that my brains are so brainwashed. But there is a black doctor who has chastised and scolded the all-white USDA dietary guidelines because black folks never needed dairy products. Oh. And I've been stopping drinking milk. They done told you, oh, milk brings the body good, the bones and all that kind of stuff. Right. Black folks aren't supposed to consume the dairy. But you can't tell us nothing because they have already trained us religiously, psychologically, economically, tell you what you can and can't eat. And so we are still following the lies of our oppressor, which is taking our lives out. There was a white chemist, scientist that was warning us about how they were poisoning our air and how they were setting up us for cancer. They were causing all these illnesses in our community. They blew up his car. And he said it when he was telling us that I know they're going to come after me, but they are doing these environmental purposely to just black communities. But you know, sometimes they don't believe it unless it's the oppressors that's telling them right or wrong. They don't believe us. And that's the travesty of what's going on with us in our lives. The water issue, they've been poisoning the water because they were even talking about our school systems. So we don't know how long our children here has been, and ourselves, our lives, how we've been drinking and thinking that, oh, our water is so pure, but all the time they were already building up poison and allowing the corrosions to be in our community. So, you know, it's and then I wanted to tell you that the FBI, it's either the FBI or the CIA, now they all of a sudden want to grow masses of marijuana.
It's the DEA.
Who knows what they're going to do with that cannabis and put it out into our communities and all these other places, so that another pipeline to poisoning.
Yes, let me let you all know it's the DEA, and the DEA has just reported that the DEA wants to grow an additional, I think 25 million grams, they say, of cannabis under research, mind you. And there's only one research partner right now. It's the University of University of Mississippi. Farmland has the research partnership to be able to produce cannabis. You tell me. I need to understand, what are you going to do with all of this cannabis? Like, are you serious right now? Like, research is just like a few plants. Like, so now you are, because you now, I mean, they put it out there, everyone. Forbes did the reporting. I actually was reading about it last night. So, yeah, now the DEA wants to infuse, because now they want to create all these different hybrids, you see. You all don't understand. It's the business of everything. They are not going to let you think that you're getting a leg up on anything that they can't control. You understand that? So now we don't have to worry about trying to go and get the plants from all the other places. We don't have to deal with deals with Mexico, and they're talking about the cartels and all the other folks. We're going to do and produce all of that right here. How's that? Yeah. But again, if you don't remove yourself from your environment and realize that there is so much more out here that you need to be paying attention to, then you will think that the only thing that's happening is that in your little world. And it has an impact on you. I tell everyone all the time, you don't have to like any component of cannabis, but it is a billion-dollar industry. The gentleman from Curaleaf, the CEO, they just announced yesterday that he is the first cannabis billionaire. Owner, Curaleaf. First cannabis. Did you ever think? This reefer madness, this drug. And all these different narratives, but now it is the billion-dollar industry that we still got preachers talk about. No, you don't even want to come out here and get the people's records expunged. And on that note, National Expungement Week is coming up. Starts, I believe, the 21st of September. So the records could get expunged for individuals who have these infractions for minor cannabis cases on their records, so they can become more fruitful members of society. Can you just do that? If you don't want to jump into the business of anything, can you just do that? Let me go to the line. Thanks for your patience. Good morning.
Is it me?
Yes.
Okay, I wanted to continue to say that this is population control. This is their MO. And y'all better believe they got to get rid of billions of people in order to keep the control. The very few that controls everything and everybody, they are trying to kill billions of people. Because you're looked at, like he said, useless eaters. And so the war is they create the poverty, and then they create the war on the poor, be it white or black. They don't care because they want to last forever. They will destroy this earth and you to think that they could continue to stay in control.
Sure.
Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you so much for calling. I mean, she hit it on the head. And I mean, just think about it across the border. And you don't have to be killed to be dead. Do you get that? You don't have to physically be killed to be dead. You're walking around zombies. You're walking around nomadic. Do you understand that in America, why should we be dealing with homelessness? You all look at everything. Every city now is dealing with this rise and increase in homelessness. LA specifically. I mean, you have certain regions, Skid Row, that you identify that's the only place that the homeless can go. And we're this trillion-billion-dollar entity that has all these minds and all this ingenuity, and we can't figure out, how to meet the basic needs of folks. Oh, but they're surplus labor. They're surplus. So you don't have a problem that they're just walking around nomadic. You don't have a problem that they're living on the streets. You don't have a problem with that. And this is America. But yet we'll sit and run over to somebody else's country and try to tell them what to do. We'll sit and try to talk about what their policies are supposed to be and how they're supposed to be equitable to the people that live in their spaces. Come on, you all. It's a bigger conversation than what you're getting. And if you don't decide that you're going to be in the game, understand the game, and figure out how to make it work for you. No one is going to save you. They're not going to give you the answers. Whoever you put in office as president is not going to save you. Whoever you put in office as city council is not going to save you. Whoever you put, if it's the same mindset, in the mayoral seat is going to save you. When you take the leadership upon yourself to identify leaders who don't need politics, but determine that I'm going to lead no matter what, if I'm either in the office or out of the office to make it better for people, then that's when things will change. But don't think that you're not going to get pushback along the way because you are raging against the machine. You are impacting how they make money. So the narratives aren't going to be for you. They're not going to give you coverage in the newspaper. They're not going to interview you. They're not going to talk about a mindset in which you're really empowering the people and having them realize who they are and how things can be better for them. Because it's only that 1% that's supposed to gain the wealth. It's the 1% that's supposed to sit and reap all the spoils of everything, everyone else's hard work, and that you struggle and you fight, and they gave you the narrative that it'll be better by and by when you die. That's when your life will be good for you when you die. Well, if we don't do anything about what's going on right now, you might die sooner than actually what you thought, because you're dealing with contaminated water, you're dealing with a contaminated mindset, you're dealing with contaminated housing, you're dealing with contaminated food. Come on. I'm just saying, something to consider. Everyone, our time is up on today. I hope that you have gotten something, a little bit of something, that causes you to think of things about a little bit different. That we perish not because of the disobedience, but people who are sitting by and obeying what people, the powers that be, tell them to do. Bless the man who was the engineer at the water plant, who has since passed away in 2016. But his sister in the editorial documentary said that he would call her frantically throughout the day. We're not ready. We're not ready. Please call everyone and tell them, don't drink the water. Don't use the water. We're not ready for this. We shouldn't be doing this. But because big business was moving, they went ahead and did it. And none of them lived in that region, so they could do the photo op that they were drinking the water. And I bet you as soon as they drunk it, they kept it in their mouths. And then when the cameras were away, they spit it out. I'm going to leave us with a quote from Albert Einstein. You know, he was a German-born theoretical physicist who developed the theory of relativity. And he states, "The world will not be destroyed by those who do evil, but by those who watch them without doing anything." Let that be your takeaway for the day. Not by those who do it, but those who watch by. There were those who watched as Flint continued to go through what they're doing. There are those that are watching in Detroit. There are those who are watching in Newark. There are those who are watching in Baltimore. There are those who are watching in D.C., Texas, all around this world. Whatever the travesty or injustice is, folks are watching. and they figure that it has no impact on them, so they do nothing. I'm imploring you today to do something, if it's nothing more than just having the conversation. I pray that you've been educated, enlightened, and empowered on today and every day. I look forward to seeing you bright and early tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. for more Coffee and Conversation with Collette. I'll see you then.